Historic change in Saudi Arabia. Women getting behind the wheel.
For the first time, Karima Bukhari driving on the Northern Ring Road with everybody else.
Driving on the open road. It's a simple act that had been forbidden for decades.
I'm excited. I'm so optimistic, and it's a historic moment for all ladies in the kingdom.
And for Karima Bukhari, this moment is a kind of redemption.
Driving is like riding a bicycle, like swimming.
She first learned how to drive when she was a young adult living in Canada. But when she returned to Saudi Arabia, that right was stripped away.
Significant change in their lifestyles by not being dependent on someone to take them places. So it's not only going to help women, enroll more in the workforce, but also would help them being more independent in their own lives.
It's been a long road to reach this point. For years, there have been protests and campaigning. But now, in part to bolster Saudi Arabia's economy, the government is allowing women to drive, hoping that more women will join the workforce. It's a move that could add as much as $90 billion to the Saudi economy by 2030. And it's all part of this man's grand plan. The future king of Saudi Arabia, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS as everybody calls him. Earlier this year, he struck out on a tour of the Western world.
It's a great honor to have the Crown Prince.
Meeting with President Trump at the White House.
Thank you, Mr. President.
It's all a tremendous PR push to install what he calls, quote, moderate Islam that is open to the world. Saudi Arabia, an ancient land rooted in tradition and bound by a strict, all-encompassing interpretation of Islam. But today, this country is changing. Last fall, we traveled to Saudi Arabia to see the transition firsthand. At the time, women were still banned from driving, but they were learning any way they could. This is a racetrack, and it's one of the only places where you'll see women driving. Go-karts. You love driving?
Yes.
Out on the track, Waad shows me the ropes. A natural. She's been coming here almost since it opened. Who won?
You.
I won. Yes. Is there anybody in your family or among your friends who say, Waad, you should not drive?
Yes. All my family and my friends. Because أنا عندي مشكلة في اللفة هم يخافون علي. أنا عندي تهور. أسوق بسرعة متهورة.
It's an incredibly young country. Nearly 70% of Saudis are under 30 years old. And on our trip, everywhere we went, the change was palpable.
Oh!
Like this women's boxing class.
Go, 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 go!
The last thing I expected was to see Saudi women box.
Hitting a bag or hitting pads or punching something makes you feel happy and empowered and strong. Throw your left, bring it back to your face.
Hala Al Hamrani is the first and only female boxing and kickboxing trainer in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a true revolutionary.
What would you say to Americans who just have this stereotype about Saudi women, about Saudi Arabia and the society? They think terror, they think oil.
There's so much more to us and to Saudis and Saudi Arabia than that.
After her workout, Hala puts on her long abaya and her headscarf, still required dress for Saudi women in public.
Mine is actually pretty colorful.
It is?
Yeah.
She tells us those bright colors were unheard of just a decade ago. So many rules, so much forbidden for so long. While we head to lunch, Hala talks about the country's strict past.
Before, it was scared of the religious police. Like if you were sitting with someone who was your cousin or
A man,
and they're not your like brother or father or whatever, they could jail you.
At the restaurant, we meet Hala's sister, Danya. She's a filmmaker.
I always say I was born with a camera in my hand.
Danya's just finished a documentary about Saudi women.
Change is inevitable, and life doesn't go back.
There is nothing that we have gone through that other nations have not gone through.
We struggle with this idea of what and who is a Saudi woman, because it's not, one thing doesn't tell that story.
At the time, Danya couldn't show her film in her own country. There were no movie theaters allowed, but that's changed as well. In April, AMC opened Saudi Arabia's first cinema. The inaugural screening, Black Panther. But not all are happy with the change. Going into the Grand Mosque in the old city of Riyadh. It's huge and hugely important and hugely conservative. Signs of the old Saudi Arabia, still strong here. It's all men. No women are allowed. After prayers, we try to talk to people. Do you like to change the greater freedoms for women?
There are changes that I like, but I'm opposed to the driving.
It's clear Saudi Arabia is still nowhere near a free country. There's something we should tell you. We are not free to go where we want in this country. Our itineraries are pre-approved by the government, and everywhere we go, we have a minder with us, a guide. Somebody who's probably spying on us, and to be fair, trying to keep us safe in a country where a lot of people don't like Westerners. But remember, people we talk to are not free to speak. We are not free to go where we want. This is still a very repressive country. And then there is the war in Yemen, their neighbors to the south. Saudi Arabia leading a bombing campaign and blamed for much of the misery. Privately, some people here hate the war. Our Vietnam, one said. Do you support this war in Yemen?
I'm not talking about political things.
To be honest, I'm a little frustrated right now. It's really hard to get people to talk honestly about certain subjects. Politics. As soon as you raise it, you hear, our leadership is great. We trust them. There's no problem. This is a wall. There is so much tradition in this country, and that tradition is so powerful. And while women across Saudi Arabia are taking to the road, half a dozen high-profile female activists who fought for the right to drive still sit in jail, arrested last month on suspicion of undermining security. And although women are now permitted to drive, they are still not able to move around freely. Women require the permission of a male guardian to go anywhere.
Saudi Arabia is one of the most challenging places. Basically, as a woman, your fate and your access to resources and opportunities is very much dependent on the will of the man responsible for the family.
But for now, just being able to drive around the block is a small step in the right direction. For Nightline, I'm Terry Moran in Saudi Arabia.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.